Anginibingelele nonke igama lami nguNdabezinhle, so you know it's Ndabezinhle. Um, Before I start, maybe on a lighthearted note, clearly Xolani Dube hasn't changed. He was like this at school. I almost told you his nickname, but I won't. But it's good to actually have people like him who can bring us together to talk. So I am not a politician, but I am affected by politics and I'm affected by economics, by everything that actually affects most of us who are here. Maybe straight to the point. I majored in statistics and actuarial science and all those things. And I remember a book that said there used to be liars, damned liars, and now they are statisticians. And people use statistics. But in this case, it looks like these people are not lying. We are told that 72% of the youth that were surveyed said that they are prepared to forgo democracy if they get jobs and they have inequality dealt with. Unfortunately, when we read that, we put our political hat and think, how dare they? Oh, Babu Mandela fought for this, oh, Babu Lutuli fought for this, how dare they? Actually, the guys are thinking, we gotta eat. Seemingly, we've forgotten that you've got stomachs that actually make you go work because you're hungry. So I'm going with that survey because it was not done by CNN, it was not done by News 24, it wasn't done by some focus group, it's actually the youth. 72%, that's a very significant statistic. You cannot jippo those numbers. If it was 28%, 72% is highly significant. You need to pay attention. Now, I did some random experiments when I used to come here just before the elections, and I grew up eMlazi, eMbumbulu, so ngikhule nje khona la. Ngifunde nako Vukuzakhe, nako St. Francis College. Kodwa I'm now working in Johannesburg. So when I come here on business, I would take an Uber, and I start hearing, say, who are you guys going to be voting for? And the Uber drivers tell you a lot. No, MK. And I started saying some names that I know of some senior politicians. I'm not going to say who. And they said, no, we're going with MK. So I already knew that we were going to get a surprise just by using some random statistics. Now, I'm not saying that I should take up the job of being a predictor of of politics. No. But I'm just saying that when you are here getting surveys telling you about what's going to happen, and you don't listen, you're not going to change that destiny. You're just going to change your mind later on when something has happened. Now, an ostrich is that animal that is very big but has a small brain. So it just buries its head in the sand and says, because I see no evil, I hear no evil, then there's no evil. And I think most of us are like that, actually. It's not the politicians, it's us. The politicians are just political animals. And are not just in politics, you find them in church as well. They'll sell whatever you want to buy. And that's who they are. The people who get actually dealt with or get poor service, who get poor whatever, it's us. And yet we're the ones who keep on not learning the lesson. Now, let me move to what I wanted to say. So when we are hearing the whole thing about the youth saying that they want jobs, they want inequality, they want opportunity, for me, I interpreted the dealing with inequalities as we want opportunity. Why did I do that? Because I realized that, I wanted to be tall. I wanted my son to be whatever. Now they said, I want to be 6'2" so I can play basketball. They're not even talking about meters. It's all the American 6'2". But I'm 1.74 meters, and my son's also 1.74, 1.72. I'm not going to do anything about his size. Sometimes the weight you get is what you're given until obviously you start working out. So there are some things that I can't legislate to be equal. You know, I might have wanted maybe to have a lighter complexion and be a yellow bone, but this is what I got. But I can create opportunities. Opportunities is what you can do. So I'm taking what the youth is saying and saying they want jobs, they want opportunities. Okay. Now, what do actuaries say about employment? They say that when there's increased employment, the mortality rate reduces. People live longer when when they're employed. Actually, when we were doing those studies in actuarial science, it shows you that it probably cures many ills, not all, but many. If you want to have access to medical aid, you have to be working. If you want to send your kids to good schools, you have to be working. Many things actually need. If you want to do whatever you can think of, employment is important. And it shows up in the science of who lives longer, who does well. It shows up in economics. If you want your debt to GDP to go down from 79% where it is, you need growth. Then your GDP is actually going to go down. Your debt to GDP is going to go down. So employment. The survey, obviously, the youth have already told us. We don't necessarily need to be hearing from actuaries. The youth are telling us that's what they need. Okay, perhaps we've heard from young people, but we didn't listen to them because we're in our 50s. We've heard from the intelligentsia, some of the actuaries. We didn't listen to them because, okay, there are not many of them, so who cares about them? Who else are we going to listen to? Well, let's try Holy Scriptures. So perhaps we got to believe something. Hey, what do they say? Well, it says, let him who stole steal no longer, but rather let him labor, working hard with his hands what is good, that he may have something to give to him who has a need. That's a business proposition. Work with your hands, gives to someone who has a need. Not work with your hands what you like to do that no one else wants, and then you have to force people to buy your tomatoes. No, find out what people need, work hard with your hands, whatever it is. I'm not educated enough. You can work hard with your legs and play soccer and ask uManzini to employ you at Amazulu. You can do something. Go and sing and do something and export your music overseas. There's something we can do. That's employment. I didn't say a job in the corporate, I said employment. I'm going somewhere with this. It also says all hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. And we've got a lot of talks. Indaba this, Lokhutla this, nothing gets done. And we have the people who can be involved in investments. We've gone and studied and done those things, and you get put in the back burner. You don't have then the right people doing the right things. I'm not saying that you have to be educated. I'm just saying that we need to get things done and not talk a lot. And then lastly, if a man will not work, neither let him eat. Now, it says there in the scripture. By the way, that same scripture also says that if you've got a garden, a field, and you are harvesting, don't be too efficient. Just leave the edges for the poor to go and glean. They don't have to come and ask. They'll just go and glean. It also says that take care of the widows, the orphans, and the foreigners. The scriptures tell you that. It says take care of the foreigners. Take care of the orphans. It didn't say government. It says you. Okay. So if we're not listening to actuaries, we are not listening to Holy Scriptures, we're not listening to youth. I think we are ostriches. We've got a Zulu saying, Isala kuchelwa sibona ngomobo. Isala, the one who refuses instruction ends up bleeding. Isala kuchelwa sibona ngomobo. So I think we don't need to be discussing this. We just need to go and listen to these statistics and just do employment. Now, perhaps our leaders are not learning, are not listening, and they're not learning. Maybe we should call them so-called leaders, because the word lead has a root word li, L-E-A, which is the same word for learn. So if you can't unlearn, you can learn and relearn and unlearn, you're not going to change. The same word for lead is the same word for learn, is the same word for change. So we need to get that done. But who's going to do it? Because, as I said, the politicians do not have an option, don't have an urge to change unless they've formed a new political party, which is a bit of entrepreneurship in itself. It's good. Okay. Talk about opportunity. Actually, maybe people could talk about opportunity. That employment is equal to entrepreneurship. He didn't say go join a job, said work out with your hands. Me Incorporated, you can do something. So entrepreneurship. I went to a school, which I also heard that Sandile also went to. It's called Vuguzaki. So we had a principal. We used to call him Mtsimbi. Vuguzaki. You need to get up and edify yourself and build yourself up. We need to do that. No one is coming for us in KZN. No one is coming for us in South Africa. We need to do it. On that opportunity, I see education. We were told education is the key to success. I don't hear that anymore. I mean, I have a dad who went to go to a TEFLOP, University of Limpopo, which was called University of the North, in his 40s to go study. In his 40s, because I'm 47, turning 48 in June. This was the old generation we're doing. With Bantu education, they will go and study. We don't. We just finish it at age 21 and we're complaining. They will go and study. We need that. But how can we, when NSFAS is not working, and the Minister of Finance himself can't even fire NSFAS? He talks about it and says, I'm powerless. And I'm not being political, I'm just quoting a whole minister telling us that he can't do that because he says they're not doing their job. If they're not doing the job and you want to have an opportunity, I happen to be in private equity and infrastructure. I'm investing in those funds. I've worked as a chief investment officer of a 200 billion pension fund. I've invested in these things, I know them. You try to put a student accommodation, MLAS. I've tried it. Why? Because all of the developments, if I'm doing industrial or I'm doing an office building or I'm doing a data center, it's going to be outside of the township. The only thing you can do in the township right now is shopping center and student accommodation, because we've got a technicum. But you can't do it because you have to rely on NSFAS. There are no rich parents who can pay 10,000 rand per month. You heard me? That's what they pay in Cape Town. 10,000 rand per month. Actually, I've heard that the guys who go to some of the schools here, I'm not going to mention their names, they pay 17,000 rand per month. And the parents pay up front because they don't want any hassles. Now, those who are poor need NSFAS. And is NSFAS being patriotic? Is it apartheid that's doing that, or is it us? Now, I'm not minimizing apartheid, it was bad. But I'm just going to say that, we need to fix our own problems. We don't need Shaka to rise up again and fix our problems, people. Yeah, we have the brains, we have the balls, we have the body. We need to do it. So that education is needed, and whatever is getting in the way, if there's someone who needs something, hey, let's give them some money, but let them get out of there so that we can get something in NSFAS. People are dying. We've got this youth who are going to take over, and we're just hearing about it. I'm telling you, the day they decide they've got enough, where are you going to go to? Because South Africans don't travel that well. Where are you going to go to? Let's just think about it. Where are you going to go to? Maybe Namibia? Where else? So if this country becomes ungovernable because we were busy tinkering, fiddling while Rome is burning, We've got ourselves to blame. People get the government that they deserve. So let's get that done, because that will create opportunities. I was the first one to choose to do actuarial science in my school. I did the degree. I'm not a qualified actuary, but I did the degree, and then I moved to investments. And there are many guys who came after me who went and did it. I was one of the first one to go into investments. I'm a CFA charter holder, chartered financial analyst. One of probably the first Black African to get the CAIA, which is the Chartered Alternative Investment Analyst, focusing on private equity and those private markets. I did all of that because I wanted to make sure I can go into those doors where they say, you need to have gray hairs, you need to be educated. Okay? It opens those doors. Whatever it is either our hands or whatever it is, we can get something done. So for me, the BE, which is Black Education, which is Black Economic Empowerment, perhaps should have been Black Education and Entrepreneurship. Think about it. If you empower someone to be educated, even when you've given them free shares, they'll know what to do with them. They're not going to sit in the boardroom and their conversations about the economy, about the exchange rate, and they're just playing a table tennis match, looking ping pong, ping pong. They're going to participate. Now, I came up with that idea back in 2011 when they were doing the National Planning Commission, and they said, guys, come participate. I said, well, I've got a laptop, let me participate. I'm not going to mention names, but we know who was running all of that. And the suggestion was, we need to have a sovereign wealth fund, which is going to have 10% stakes in all the companies. And then in that sovereign wealth fund, you're going to put the brains, you're going to put the Sandile Zungus of this way. He's a mechanical engineer, an MBA, can create things, can think. Many other people, by the way. I just didn't mention any names. I just said you're going to put the brains trust in there. Do you know what I got from the people who were running it? They said, but even when you've got the sovereign wealth fund, you should also still have those individuals who can invest with their own money. And I knew it was the guys that benefited from BE. I said, yes, it's okay. They'll also come along too, but you will have this sovereign wealth fund, because I said 25 years down the line, when people have forgotten about Mvela Panda, that sovereign wealth fund will still be there. They have the future fund in Australia. They've got the permanent fund in Alaska. We've got nothing in South Africa. And yet we had the windfall, the commodity super cycle. We had everything. And we have this BE, which I don't know if Minister Parks is trying to do that, but it sounds similar. And to say, take some of those things and make sure that you can create a fund out of it. Make sure there's good governance. In any case, these ideas have not been listened to. In his introduction, Xolani Dube style, I used to add that, he was talking about, hey, we've had people who could actually do something and have not been accepted, have been rejected. So when you have ideas, you get called names. Now, I'm not saying that there are not people who are snobbish. They are. But when you hear clever blacks, it means if you're black, you must not be clever. Or you can't contribute. I think we are limiting ourselves. We should deal, obviously, with those who are snobbish and take those who want to work. So when we are not getting the right people at the table to be doing those things, we're gonna have a problem. So in ending, I think we're busy trying to make the state our God and our silver bullet. Hey, the state must do this, state must do this. Next thing you're going to say, the state must cook food for me. I would have gone further, but I'm not amongst some agents. There are some things that you, as a man, are supposed to just do. The state must do, the state must do. I happened to have a chance one day when we were invited to some place, which I won't mention right now. And someone senior said, you know, the state has limited capacity. Limited capacity. Someone said emasculated. That's exactly what it is. In limited capacity. At the time where people said the state must do this, the state must do this, the state must do that. So perhaps we should take ownership. There are 3 institutions. I'm ending. I'm trying to sound like you talk about institutions. There's the institution of state, there's the institution of church, and institution of family. Yes, you can put business because it's a subset of family, and you can. And maybe if you're saying, well, we're not Christians, but whatever church is, that institution of belief, of religion, is there. The state, church, and family. Don't let what families are supposed to be doing think that the state is going to do that. Or what church is supposed to be doing think that the state is going to do that. Let each have its own proper role, and let's not expect a lot from things that have disappointed us. Let's, take up something. So for me, it's a challenge to myself and a challenge to all of us, and said, actually, there hasn't been a minister who came and stopped us from trying to do something. Let's go and do something. When they have stopped us, then we've got a case. We've got a data point. We've got a case point. We can go do something about it. Else, we're just going to talk about it and talk and talk and talk and not do anything. So for me, that employment needs to be done. And we can talk a lot more. I mean, private equity, we can talk a lot more about what can be done. But in a nutshell, that's what it is. Thanks.
Listen to men talk.